If I say the word homework, what idea comes to mind? I know for me, it's the, ugh, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to fill it out? I've already been thinking about this all day. However, and this is a really important however, I also now recognize that homework helped me to feel more prepared and to better understand the material, especially when it's in a school setting. But matter of fact, it actually can apply, and I would recommend does apply to inbound sales and marketing. And imagine if your buyer felt the same way about homework that I did, that they felt really prepared. They didn't feel the ugh part, but they felt prepared and ready to have another conversation with you. What if you, the company working to gain their business, could assign your prospects content to review between your sales conversations so that they could be better prepared for your next conversation? What would happen to your sales process? What about the amount of time that you spend with a prospect before the sale? And what would happen to your buyer's commitment to working with you if they were able to read and educate themselves ahead of time? A lot would happen, as a matter of fact, and we call this process of assigning prospects content and, in fact, homework, assignment selling. And in this episode of Solving Inbound, we're going to answer the question, what is assignment selling? Let's do it. Welcome back to another episode of Solving Inbound. My name is Connor Delaney, joined by John Becker. And today we're answering the question, what is assignment selling? And assignment selling has come up in a few episodes if you've been listening to the Solving Inbound podcast already. But we felt like it was time to finally define what it is and explain how to put it into practice and what's required in order to actually be successful with assignment selling. So John, I'm going to pass it to you first. Can you define for us what assignment selling is?
Sure. And Connor, you gave a great definition in your intro, and I'll just expand on it a little bit more. It is the process of sending materials to your prospects during the sales process before your meetings so that their most basic questions are answered going into that meeting. So they're answered ahead of time. If you talk to any sales rep, they will tell you they answer the same questions over and over and over and over. They get asked them in every sales call. So you could imagine if you could just skip all of that in a sales conversation and then get immediately to the good stuff, the stuff that applies specifically to that prospect's situation, their needs, their concerns, their hopes, their fears, et cetera. And that's the goal of assignment selling. So before each meeting, a sales rep will send materials to that prospect saying, maybe it's an article or two, or it could be a video, it could be a buyer's guide, whatever it is. And they'll say, I'd like you to review this before our next call. So they are assigning that content to that prospect. Assignment selling.
So John, you mentioned it's only the basic questions. It's not every single one. But from what I'm hearing and from what I understand is that it's meant to cut out, I hate this phrase, but cut out the fat a little bit, like make the conversation really personalized, not the, over and over again, the repeat, you sound like a broken record where you have to spend 15 minutes answering the same questions every single time. Instead, those 15 minutes can go towards that specific individual and their situation instead.
That's exactly right. And whatever your sales process looks like, assignment selling can be adapted to fit it. So here at Impact, we tend to talk to our prospects 2 or 3 times before we close a deal. And so the materials that we might give them at first, before that first call, are some broad overviews about what we are, what we do and who we are. And then as that prospect moves forward, the content that they're going to get will be more specific to a particular service they might be interested in or a product, whatever it is. But it's tailored to where they are, it's tailored to their needs. And the idea is that it speaks directly to them because it is sourced from the questions of all the previous buyers. Like you said, Connor, sales reps, they're a broken record saying these same answers because they've heard these questions before. And so have we as marketers. Like we've talked to the sales team or we've watched sales calls and we hear these questions. And so when we create content for the sales team, for the prospects, we're drawing on the experience from those past customers.
Right. Something that I've had in certain sales conversations, John, and I think there's a difference, but I want you to help clarify it, is sometimes I'll just get sent content like, hey, it'd be great if you read this. And it's more of like, yeah, we talked about, for example, like buying a couch, and they send me like some images or like a video reel of like this couch. And it's like, hey, if you want to learn more about this couch, you should watch this video, or like go watch our YouTube channel, whatever. And it comes off really, if you have time, but it's not really gonna, make or break the sale. It's more of like, hey, we had a great chat, let's figure it out and like keep moving forward. But assignment selling sounds different. And assignment selling sounds like if they have to do this in order for the sales process to succeed.
You're exactly right. So it's the same idea, but the same principle, but expressed in a different way. And we train our sales reps here at Impact to use assignment selling. And then if a prospect does not, complete that assignment, they don't review that material, they don't watch that video, our sales reps won't have the meeting with them. And I know for all salespeople out there, all business leaders, that sounds, completely antithetical to sales. Like you're going to cancel a meeting with a prospect. Yes, you are. If that prospect was serious about buying from you, they would have taken the time to learn more about your company. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to cancel. Maybe you just push it back, but they're not ready for that meeting. That meeting is going to not be as productive. It's going to be answering all of those questions that they would have known if they reviewed the content. And so we advise our sales reps to cancel or to postpone that meeting. Because if you think about it, again, this sounds sort of antithetical to sales, but if someone's not going to be a good fit for your company, you want to know that early for your sake and for theirs. You don't want them in your sales process. You could maybe talk them into buying from you, but they're going to become an unhappy customer. Or you're going to waste your time and you're never going to close them. So assigning content on the front end allows prospects to say, yeah, this isn't the right fit for us. We're going to go in another direction. That's a win. That's great because it saves you that hour of time, or it saves you the many hours of time if that person becomes an unhappy and disgruntled customer.
And I'm someone who loves assignment selling. I use it myself. it's a very uncomfortable feeling to not have a call because someone didn't read an article or watch a video. But something that I've implored as I've been using assignment selling myself, and I've seen not only our team here at Impact, but also a lot of our clients who use this really effectively is the follow-up the day before email. I don't know, that's not the official title, but the idea being like, hey, I sent this piece of content to you. Were you able to read it over? Could you send any high-level takeaways so that we can make sure that or questions that you had after reading it beforehand, so that it's not, because you want to protect yourself to the point that you were saying, like they'll cancel the call, but they have to confirm they read it. And sure, you could use HubSpot or a preferred CRM or a way for you to track if they did click on the link that you sent them and maybe spent time on the page, but you'll never know if they actually consumed the content you sent them. Because the key here, to your point, John, is to create an educated customer and to allow them to make the best decision for them. To your point, if they disqualify themselves and they say, this isn't a good fit for me, that's not a bad use of your time, because they at least trust you that you didn't try to force the sale. You didn't try to make them fit something that didn't fit. Instead, you said, I want you to make the best decision for yourself. I'm giving you all the resources and the tools that you need to make that decision. But at the same time, I think there's a bit of hesitation that if you don't have that call, you're shooting down a chance where this person may never respond to you again. And your prospect may be frustrated because they said, well, look, I still want to buy from you. I just didn't have 10 minutes to read that article. John, can you take me through why that level of commitment to read that article is actually a huge value point for that conversation or really a trust builder for your sales conversation?
I think it's something that Marcus has said. We make time for the things that have importance to us. To say something you don't have time is to say that it doesn't have value to you. And you're right. Everybody's busy. Everybody's got jam-packed calendars, but you're saying it's 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes to take a look.
If that. Most articles are shorter than that too.
Right. It's 10 minutes. And it's it's a symbolic gesture of being aligned, of having shared seeing the value of this call, of this meeting that's coming up. And if you don't commit to it, then you're sending a pretty clear message. And so, Connor, I mean, I would ask you, like you said, if you send that follow-up email the day before a meeting and say, hey, have you reviewed this information? What kind of responses do you get to that?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag. Some of them will say, I'll send the initial email with a couple of articles in it and they'll say, great, I'll make sure to give them a look. And then you check in the day before, they're like, yeah, I didn't have the chance because I don't think that it was as valuable as I expected, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I'll get that response of like, yeah, I decided it's not as valuable for me. More often than not, if they say that they haven't read it, the follow-up it's more of a nudge to them, right? Where they'll say, oh, shoot, like you're right. Thank you for reminding me. And they'll go about that. But that's usually where they land. It's more of a crud. You caught me. I didn't do it. And then the last one will be, I read it over. I was a little confused, or I read it over. This gave me a lot of clarity. It's really interesting to see when not the discrepancy, but the difference between when they've read it, because they say, I need more clarification. And that's when you make that more personalized sales approach is I needed more clarity on this, but now I understand why they need clarity and what they need clarity about. So that conversation isn't what is blah, blah, blah. It's like, why would Impact or why would XYZ company need to do it this way, for example? And then the other side, sometimes you send them like a pricing article, like why does HubSpot cost XYZ amount of dollars? When you send that over, they say, oh, now I get it. Now I'm ready to like go make that purchase. But the ones when you say no, it's either they disqualified themselves and they didn't find it valuable. And that's when you kind of raise I'd say an orange flag and say, well, I don't know if we need to refigure this out, or they didn't read it because they didn't have time. They probably aren't seeing the value, but you're reinforcing it.
Yeah. Great point. So to wrap up, Connor, let's talk about what needs to happen in order, what is the foundation that assignment selling is built on? Because it doesn't just happen that a sales team has a library of content to send to prospects at every stage of a multi-step buying process. This is not accidental. So assignment selling as an idea might make sense. Let's talk a little bit about the practicality.
Right. And it can be hard because one, it's really hard to get sales reps to do this. Like as we've spoken to numerous clients, even on this podcast, it takes time to break down those barriers and to see the results of it because they need to have the content in play. But it starts with your marketing team committing to helping your sales team. We've talked a lot on here about showing the value of doing inbound marketing and inbound sales. And for so many teams, they usually struggle with knowing what content to write, even to start. And it starts from the top. Your sales leadership, your marketing leadership, your company leadership need to understand that they need to be working together. And so often marketing wants to create sales content and the sales team won't use it, but it's also the other way around where marketing just wants to create marketing content. They want to drive as much traffic as possible. A lot of this content that we're sending to people is not going to get a ton of traffic. It's not designed to do so. It's designed to answer those more along the journey or down the funnel conversations so that members or your prospects understand every little detail that they might be asking. So it starts with marketing committing to, as you mentioned earlier, watching sales calls, to being a part of conversations, reading over, questions that the sales team is submitting. It really starts with marketing, creating the content and making it easy for not only sales to find, but for sales to implement into the process too. Is there anything that I missed there too? It feels like there was like a gap or two that I might have.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. For our clients, we instruct in a framework we call They Ask You Answer, which is an inbound marketing framework. This is step one. If you're starting inbound marketing, you tend to kind of think, well, I want to write this like high traffic driving, top of the funnel, like great content that's going to get to the top of Google. Great. That's great. That's probably not going to get you results for, a few months, maybe even longer. Maybe close to a year. But if you write a piece of content that the sales team can hand to a prospect today, that will build trust with them, that will shorten the sales cycle, the results can be immediate. And as you said, Connor, this requires alignment between sales and marketing. And it requires a great amount of trust Sales is used to giving an answer themselves. For them to hand a piece of content or email a piece of content to a prospect, they have to trust that that content is good, is thorough, is accurate, et cetera. So if the marketing team and sales teams are aligned, if they trust each other, you can implement this policy. You can shorten the sales cycle, get those questions out of the way first, speed things up, get bad fit prospects out of the pipeline, and everybody wins.
And I want to add one last point to that, John. Like, you have to make the content easy to find. I think that's such an underrated part of assignment selling, is not only for your different stages, like you mentioned, like we have a 2 to 3 call close typically with Impact, maybe more, maybe less, but there's some companies where it's like a 3 to 6 month conversation, maybe 10 calls. You need to map out where your content is most often used and why. You obviously might have a learning center, you might have a blog, but you don't want your sales reps scrolling through like 200 blog articles trying to find that one, or just telling them go bookmark it. Find a way to make it really easy for bottom of the funnel content offers. And again, that requires alignment between your sales and marketing teams, but work with them to make it really easy I'm looking for that cost article about, this service. And they need to have it super easy to find and not make it something that's like buried in the bottom of a ditch. You need to make it where they can find it in 10 seconds so that they can send it, because it could be right on the call too. I've seen a ton of sales reps, and I do this myself, where it's like, oh, you asked this question. I actually have an article. I'm going to send it to you right now. And in the follow-up, I'll bring it again. But if they know exactly where to find it as soon as possible, that's also building trust, because they're like, I know I have this awesome article. I've used it before. I know that you either just published it. Because at the end of the day, you want that sales content to be so valuable that they can publish it today and your sales reps could use it tomorrow. It shouldn't be the 3 months later thing. It should be ready now.
Right. So the easier you make it, the more likely the sales team and the marketing team will all go in on this, and the results can be immediate.
Well, thank you all for listening. This has been another awesome episode of Solving Inbound, where we defined what is assignment selling. We hope that you enjoyed, and until next time, we'll talk to you later.